Hi there. In this segment, I wanted to talk just a little bit about Salesforce for building materials. And the purpose for doing this is I just kind of wanted to circle back as we start talking about risk-free prototype and ways to build momentum and ways to reduce your risk. I just kind of wanted to give you a couple of videos that just sort of give you the basic set of capabilities and features to help give you some ideas as you work through some of the internal processes. Now, in previous videos, I've talked about starting the risk-free prototype process, and I'm always wanting to ensure that you might not have started the process yet. And so, if you are working internally and have built your internal meeting rhythm, I want to give you tools that you and your team can sort of revisit to think about different ways to take the results and the behaviors and the workflow and where to put them in. The other thing I also want to accomplish is I just want to give you an idea of where you might be headed. Now, again, this isn't meant to be limiting. It's meant to more give you some guidelines. So in the future, as you work through some of these things, there might be some significant tweaks or modifications for your workflow and for the results and behavior that you want to create. So like I said, this isn't meant to be limiting. It's just meant to give you some framework for some of the dialogue. It's also meant to give you something that you can share with your team, some of which may have seen some of this already and some who may not have, and it also gives them a framework for where we're headed. So the first thing I just kind of want to talk about is sort of the three major elements within the Salesforce for building materials. Now, I think it's very, very important to mention that we've taken Salesforce, what we call the Salesforce platform, and we've tweaked it slightly to really support the architectural products or the building materials sales process. So in traditional Salesforce, you have what are called leads and opportunities. And the idea is that a lead comes in, don't know much about it. You then convert it. It becomes an opportunity. That opportunity then becomes, let's say, a contract or a quote, and then it goes through the process. We felt for building materials that was, excuse me, a little too limiting and a little too confusing, like a little too generic. So what we did is we got rid of leads and we got rid of opportunities, and we created this thing we called a project. And so on the screen, I have kind of our basic project screen. And in this example, I'm showing some examples from one of our clients. And you can see, and I wanted to show this because I wanted to give you a feel for some of the tweaks that might apply to you. So in addition to kind of the basic project details that you might download from something like Dodge or BidClerk, we're also adding in elements that give you a lot of details about your particular project. Now, the project details are extensive, but the point is that it can be very simple or very complex. It can have pick lists, icons, etc. One of the things that we'll talk a lot about based on the results and the behavior that you might be wanting to create are things like activity status or other icons. I say in other videos that I always like to reinforce the kind of behavior that we're creating or the kind of behavior we want to create. So we have different color codes and icons, or we can, that tell us what's happening. So in this case, red is bad. This means that this project is neglected. It hasn't had an appropriate kind of follow-up in an appropriate period of time. If it was green, we'd know that it's had what I call an appropriate touch. So we have different things like that throughout the project screen. Now, moving on from projects, we then have what we call project relationships. And project relationships are really that area where you capture the key people at different stages of the project and the key information about the role that they play. So the idea here is that we're forming a foundation of the architects, the contractors, the subcontractors. There might be manufacturing reps in here, et cetera. All of those details associated with getting our product spec'd, and then what I call protect the spec to make sure that we keep that business. All of that information is captured here. And again, all of these things can be tailored, but some of the basic ideas is that we want to know their status. We want to know if they're the apparent winner, if they've been awarded, et cetera. We want to know kind of what their relationship is between them and this particular project. And that's an important point because this architect, the best architect ever, might be working on 4 or 5 different projects. He might be the apparent winner on this project, and he might simply be, this may not be a good example, but he might not be the apparent winner on another project. Maybe a little bit better example for contractors. So in this example, the contractor might be the winner on this project. He might be, maybe not blacklisted, but he might not be in the driver's seat on another one. And what that also leads into is what we call attitude. Now, this is an area where we can do a lot of tailoring for your specific process, but the basic idea is that status tells me the relationship between this architect and the project. The attitude tells me the attitude of that architect towards me or my product. So in this example, the best architect loves me, he's green. The best general contractor doesn't love me, he's red. And in this example, this attitude is driven by a very simple pick list. It's either supportive, neutral, or opposed. But we can bake intelligence into this attitude. So there's other things that we can do with that. The other thing that we're doing with another client is that they're calculating the value of that particular relationship. So if I've quoted this guy 15 times and he's given me deals 14 times, well, then he's going to have a higher ranking than a guy that I've quoted 10 times and I've gotten one deal from him. So there's ways that we can incorporate the actual closed won details, not only of whether they are awarded, but whether or not they were awarded and we got the business. So again, just some ideas for you to start thinking about kind of how we do that. And finally, that leads us to dashboards. We talk in the previous videos about identifying your results and your behavior and your metrics. Dashboards are where we reflect those. And I'll have some other videos coming about dashboards and techniques that you can use within dashboards to really drive the behavior that you're hoping for. And so we'll get into more details, but I just kind of wanted to give you a quick sample of what the dashboard can do for you. And again, it's all about taking those metrics and those behaviors and reflecting them in a visual way so that you can drive that particular relationship and that particular behavior. So with that, I just kind of wanted to end by saying that if you're ready to start the risk-free prototype and you haven't yet, go ahead and grab a time on my calendar and we can go ahead and schedule that start call where we review times and review details. Again, if you're not ready to start the risk-free prototype, but you're doing those internal meetings, you may want to grab some screenshots from this video, throw it into your project document, start kind of modeling and working on some of the basic things that you might want. Now, again, it's a little bit premature to do some of this, but some of those decisions, like I said in the previous video, you may want to capture. For example, you may want to start to sort of model out what are some of the key things that I want on my screen. So for example, in this screen, you might look at this and say, I want to know the stage of the project. I want to know if there's a specifying rep or an architectural rep. I guess that would be the same thing. Or a product rep. I want to track that information. You can just start to jot those things down here in the project document and make those decisions. You may want to start laying out your screens, et cetera. So you just start to get a feel for what you're doing. Again, it's all about creating momentum and reducing risk. And you can start to use some of these different techniques to get your thinking aligned and focused on what you're doing. So with that, just like to say thank you again for watching these videos. And if you have any questions or need any help with anything, shoot us an email, shoot us a comment, jump on our calendar, and we look forward to helping you. Thank you.